It is not known where the belief in vampires first originated, if indeed it does have a single point of origin. What is known is that in one form or another, mankind has always believed in creatures that steal the vitality from others. But whereas the focus has always been on the supernatural qualities of the vampire, this has merely drawn attention away from the existence of their real-life counterpart, the human vampire. A monster that feeds on its fellow human beings in the same way a wolf devours a fatted calf. And with such finesse, the victim does not even realize he's been fed upon. Have you ever had a chat with someone, or simply been in their presence, and afterwards felt mysteriously drained of energy? Perhaps you've been with a work colleague, a friend, perhaps even a family member. But for some reason, following exposure to this particular person, the day always seems a little duller, your life a little darker. 10 minutes ago you were bursting with energy. Now all you want to do is curl up in a corner and go to sleep. Chances are, you've just been leeched by a human vampire. Human vampirism is as old as the species and far more prevalent than one might imagine. For the fact is, everyone knows a vampire in real life, and not the undead, toothsome variety so beloved of Hollywood. These are flesh and blood parasites who insinuate themselves into your life and slowly bleed you of every ounce of self-worth. They will squander years of your life, they will infect you with fears and doubts, they will undermine your every achievement and pour cold water on your most cherished dreams, seducing you into prioritizing their needs whilst downgrading your own. And you won't even know it's happening. Human vampires take on every guise: the tyrannical boss, the abusive lover, the forever needy friend, the parent that constantly puts you down, the scheming work colleague, the emotionally blackmailing sibling. But they all have one thing in common: they are energy parasites. And like all parasites, they require a host to sustain them. They can sense weakness in others, and will almost always single out the most vulnerable in society: single mothers, the disabled, old people, children, immigrants. Anyone who looks as though they'll provide an easy meal, whilst carefully allying themselves with more powerful vampires, in order to avoid becoming a meal themselves. The parallels between mythological and real vampires continues when one considers that the former is a creature of hierarchy, the head vampire usually being a king or nobleman, whilst his minions are drawn from the lower classes, indicating that the infection spreads downwards. The human vampire operates in much the same manner, the head vampire in any society being those in the highest positions, politicians using the tactics of fear-mongering in order to increase their power base, media moguls peddling fear to sell more papers, bankers using the threat of foreclosure to increase profitability, employers using the threat of redundancy to sap morale. The aim of the human vampire is to deprive the victim of the will to resist, to make the act of surrendering seem like a perfectly natural one, as much a part of everyday life as breathing and eating. In order to recognize a human vampire in your life, take the following test. Merely ask yourself whether the person in question leaves you feeling good about yourself or fearful and negative. And remember, anyone who siphons energy away from another human being is vampiric in nature, whatever their excuse. Whether they're a news reporter, a government minister, or a troll making negative comments on YouTube, the goal is always the same: to draw the victim into a position where his energy can easily be leached. And so the question is this: are you a vampire? Am I? Now the answer is somewhat more complex than you might imagine. We have all become infected to some degree or other. Remember, vampirism is hierarchical in nature. The infection passes down through society, originating in the halls of high office and filtering on down through our schools, our media, our parents and peers, inducing a dog-eat-dog attitude that isolates the individual and makes it more difficult for people to act as a cohesive group. The tyrannical boss, for example, bullies the menial worker. The menial worker takes it out on his wife, His wife then takes it out on her children go on to bully other kids at school. A negative force is set in motion that eventually contaminates every aspect of society. Recognizing the vampire within is a first step towards defeating the vampire without. Bearing in mind that human vampires, in keeping with their legendary equivalent, have no real strength of their own and must continuously feed in order to thrive. This would explain the reason tyrants physically deteriorate the moment they are dislodged from office, or psychotic bosses the moment they are forced into retirement. Deprived of nourishment, the human vampire will dissolve as rapidly as a fictional vampire in sunlight. Your fear attracts them. Your peace of mind repels them as violently as a cross or a stake through the heart. Do not be afraid to say no. No more fear, no more submission, no more free meals at your expense. Only when you recognize this insidious monster for the pitiable wretch it truly is, will you be free at last from the vampire's hypnotic spell.